Welcome to LFC Transfer Hub. Liverpool readying formal approach for Alexander Isak. It has been a huge day when it comes to Alexander Isak's future after he told Newcastle he wishes to explore a transfer, while Hugo Ekitike has met his new teammates in Hong Kong. It has been one development after another when it comes to Isak after he was left out of Newcastle's pre-season tour, having told Newcastle of his desire to leave and explore his transfer options. Liverpool have enough financial wiggle room to sign the 25-year-old, as per the iPaper, who, among others, maintain that Newcastle believe they can keep him. Transfer journalist Fabrizio Romano, however, has stressed that Liverpool are still there and are not giving up on a deal for Isak, and are ready to make a record bid if Newcastle open the door. He adds Al Hilal are currently not in the picture, and that the Liverpool situation is absolutely on and concrete, for a deal that would be worth over £120 million. What parallel universe are we living in? The Mail's Craig Hope. Meanwhile, reports Liverpool are readying a formal approach, and, once that happens, Newcastle will have a decision to make. It is worth keeping in mind that there are a lot of pieces to the puzzle, including Newcastle needing to find a replacement before they allow Isak to leave. They won't want their hand weakened, and Liverpool will be aware of that. Hilariously, we have even had briefs that Man United have ruled out a move for Isak. We'll leave that one with you to chuckle over. Alexander Isak to Liverpool transfer, more likely than move to Saudi Arabia. With Alexander Isak now exploring a move away from Newcastle, the striker's desire to stay at the top makes joining Liverpool more likely than Saudi Arabia. Isak has rejected proposals of a new contract at Newcastle and made clear his intentions to leave this summer if the right move presents itself. Following an exclusive from the Mail's Craig Hope, The Times' Martin Hardy is among those to report further on the situation around St. James Park. Hardy explains that Isak is seeking a new deal worth about £300,000 a week, but Newcastle were prepared to go to about £200,000 a week, as any higher would create problems. But the 25-year-old's motivation to leave Newcastle is not purely financial, given he is more likely to join Liverpool than Saudi side Al Hilal. Liverpool are ready with a package of about £130 million, and the Saudi Pro League club, Al Hilal, are thought to be preparing a deal that could be worth as much as £500,000 a week, Hardy writes. It is thought that Isak wants to keep playing top-level football at this stage of his career, which makes a potential transfer to Liverpool, the Premier League champions, more likely than a move to Saudi Arabia. It is maintained elsewhere that Newcastle would stick to their valuation of £150 million, but their not-for-sale stance appears to have already softened. The Athletic's David Ornstein writes that Newcastle are exploring potential replacements in case he departs, having already seen their attempts to sign Hugo Ekitike fail. They have seen moves for Liam Delap and João Pedro fall through, with both joining Chelsea instead, while Brentford have rejected their £25 million bid for Yoane Wissa. It should be maintained that Newcastle would likely need to sign two strikers if Isak were to leave, having already seen Callum Wilson depart on the expiry of his contract. But it is more likely that Ekitike, who signed for Liverpool in a £79 million deal on Wednesday night, was viewed as their next first-choice striker internally. While Newcastle claimed Isak had been left out of their pre-season tour of Singapore and South Korea on Thursday due to a minor thigh injury, Ornstein reports that the player in fact asked to stay behind. The forward favored being omitted amid his uncertain future, the journalist wrote, effectively confirming wider suspicions when the news first broke. Despite Liverpool have already spent £295 million on 7 signings this summer, Sky Sports have relayed research from football finance expert Swiss Ramble in explaining that Liverpool can lose a further £158 million and still be PSR compliant. Welcome to LFC Transfer Hub. What is really going on inside the confusing Alexander Isak transfer saga? Despite assurances from Eddie Howe that Isak will remain at Newcastle, the 25-year-old has been linked with a move away and may need to force the club's hand in order to secure a switch. Newcastle United may be insistent that Alexander Isak is not for sale, and Eddie Howe may be cautiously asserting his confidence that the Swede will be here at the start of the season. But there is a lot more uncertainty within the club. Many are worried. A feeling is growing that Isak's head has been turned, with that accentuated by the club's frustrations in the transfer market. The 25-year-old is coming into his prime, and just qualifying for the Champions League is no longer enough. No matter what else House says, it is hardly encouraging that the manager admits he has to send him home from a pre-season friendly due to the speculation around him. That is a strange and conspicuous decision in such circumstances. Some teammates won't even be drawn on his future. There were still other alarm bell lines from Howe, even as he maintained Isak is happy at Newcastle. Among them were, "I respect a player's career and how short it is. The great question isn't over Newcastle's stance but whether Isak will actually agitate to leave. Most have thought that was unlikely due to his personality, but it's not being said with the same confidence it was. At the same time, the transfer window can bring different forces and unexpected twists. Things can drastically change when there's suddenly money on the table. Isak may have to actually agitate to ensure that. Some wonder whether it would be too late. Those close to Isak's circle insisted as far back as last year that his future is not clear-cut, and that this was always going to be a big summer. Newcastle's controversial but almost limitlessly wealthy ownership may mean they have even less need to sell than anyone else. But no squad really needs a player around that doesn't want to be there. So it really comes down to how much Isak's head has actually been turned. There is still one huge caveat to all of this talk, and that is the size of any prospective fee. Isak is really worth around £150 million, and Newcastle are not even going to consider much less. While every club would love Isak, there are very few who can afford him outright, and only a handful that have the budget this summer. Real Madrid don't have the space and actually need to sell in those positions as they prioritize midfield. Barcelona have the need but don't have the budget, as can be viewed by the fact they are going for Marcus Rashford on a loan deal. Paris Saint-Germain are maybe one to watch here, and he would fit the profile of new Champions League winners. The word is they are nevertheless focusing on other areas. Bayern Munich clearly have something close to the budget as well as the need, since they have already considered deals of around £100 million for Florian Wirtz and Luis Diaz. They just haven't been mentioned as a club Isak would be interested in going to. All of which leaves much to Newcastle's potential irritation, the kind of Premier League rivals they are seeking to supplant. Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur at least are barely worth mentioning in this. Chelsea have obviously thought about it given co-owner Badad Abelay's passion for player trading, but Isak would involve a considerable adjustment to the wage structure, and there is currently no serious suggestion anything will happen there. Manchester City have already spent £350 million since January, and consequently used much of the PSR headroom they had built up. Liverpool would actually have to pay out another £120 million to match that figure this year, which points to how a recent reticence to spend has given them such scope this summer. Everyone is watching what is next there, and no one in football can really understand the dynamics so far. Liverpool evidently have an interest in Isak, but have denied contact with Newcastle. Other sources insist there has been contact, amid a lot of speculation about power plays and multi-layered strategies. A theory has grown that Liverpool have pursued Newcastle target Hugo Ekitike to try and force the Isak situation, but you probably don't make an offer to Eintracht Frankfurt if that is actually the case. They are visibly, seriously advancing on another deal. Except, sources close to the negotiations say they haven't advanced that quickly, and Frankfurt have also been frustrated with the pace of it all. All of that is precisely why Howe's decision to leave Isak out of the Celtic match only adds to the intrigue. Finally, looking on, there is then Arsenal. They were the club that were long seen as Isak's strongest suitor and who the player has previously had an interest in going to. Arsenal are actively trying to buy a forward. They haven't yet secured Sporting's Victor Gyökeres. They're supposed to be going big. Mikel Arteta is known to love Isak and see him as ideal. A sudden switch makes sense, until you come up against the pure logic of the numbers. Arsenal don't currently have the budget to go for Isak. This is, after all, a club who have been haggling over differences of £5 million in add-ons for Gyökeres. Are we really to expect they suddenly jump £70 million more? The greater intrigue is that Arsenal do have the PSR headroom. Many just put this down to the ownership's willingness to spend and how much funds are released. The Kroenkes do prefer their club to be fully responsible, with no risk in this regard. Other sources would describe that as overt conservatism and even frugality when the club has a huge chance to do something historic. Their wage bill has up until recently been around £60 million less than even Liverpool's, let alone City. That is known to have led to some frustration. Arteta has also strongly and successfully argued to push the budget out this summer, which is why some well-placed sources think it highly unlikely they will go out anymore. And yet this might really be the difference between glory now as well potential riches for the future. It's hard not to think that Arteta should mimic Sir Alex Ferguson and strongly make the case to the board that this is one of those rare players who can change everything. That this is one you do change plans for. That's all the more pronounced when the champions, Liverpool, might yet get him. It's not just about what you do. Many at Newcastle will of course be looking at such discussion and be aghast. He's still their player and looks a long way off going anywhere. However, it is certainly hard not to agree with one thing Howe said. It's difficult to give 100% clarity on this. The nature of the market means Howe is almost certainly right that Isak stays for the start of the season. But the end of the window, the market would still need to drastically change. It only makes Saturday's developments more confusing. Thanks for watching. Like and comment and subscribe.